Economists and business leaders have warned the tariffs will be devastating for our country, and a new survey is giving a sense of what that will look like locally. The survey of more than 200 Hamilton businesses from the City of Hamilton and the Chambers of Commerce in Hamilton, Stony Creek, and Flamborough found nearly 65% believe tariffs mean a reduced demand for their products and services. Nearly 62% say the tariffs mean increased operating costs. More than half believe there will be supply chain disruptions, and nearly a third say they will need to cut jobs. Now, for more on this, I'm joined by Greg Dunnett, the president and CEO of Hamilton's Chamber of Commerce. Greg, it's kind of shocking to think a third of businesses in the city believe they may have to cut jobs because of tariffs. How many jobs could Hamilton lose, and what would a third of businesses cutting jobs mean for this city?
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, and I'll do the preface with all this stuff that Trump's response may change while doing this interview, but the impacts on our community are going to be significant. A Canadian Chamber of Commerce study had us as the 8th most impacted community, and that was before the steel and aluminum tariffs. So I think, unfortunately, with 32% of businesses saying that they'll have to reduce their workforce if there is an extended tariff war, along with 30% foreseeing a hiring freeze, I think we're probably looking at hundreds of, if not thousands, of jobs being impacted here in Hamilton, and so along with the higher unemployment rates that would come from those layoffs, we'll see reduced consumer spending, and then that will have a ripple effect down throughout our economy into our retail and service sectors.
What industries do you think will be most susceptible to job cuts in Hamilton?
I think, the easy and correct answer is the manufacturing sector. We've got 30,000 direct and indirect jobs directly tied to that sector. And then if we kind of look further, construction will be a significant impact because of not only the rising material costs because of the tariffs, but also that's going to slow projects and it's going to lead to further workforce reduction. And I think when we saw a report earlier today that we've had 30 housing builds in our city in January, that's a real impact. And then again, the further and more long-term impacts are on the retail and the small businesses that are such an important part of all of our day-to-day lives. So when there's less disposable income, there's less money being spent.
This survey also found that the majority of the 214 respondents think reduced demand for products, increased operating costs, and supply chain disruptions are on the way. What does that mean for Hamilton's business community?
Yeah, it's not exactly the cheeriest interview I've ever had the opportunity to do, but we're going to see, reduced demand equals fewer sales. Fewer sales equals declining revenues. And when you partner that with the increased operating costs will be passed on to consumers, and that will lead to higher prices. And then the supply chain disruptions, which we've seen as recently as during the pandemic, are going to not only reduce the availability of goods, but it's also going to create a competitive disadvantage for some of our Hamilton-based exporters. So, and then again, I think we're just in such a time of uncertainty right now that businesses that had plans for expansion plans, it's difficult to know, again, even what's going to happen in the next hours, much less in the weeks and months to come. So expansion plans and growth opportunities are being delayed or not planned, and that's going to reduce our, that's going to have further negative impacts on our economy.
So we're almost out of time, and you're right. We don't know what's coming tomorrow. I don't even think everyone in the Trump administration understands what's coming tomorrow. But what can local chambers of commerce like yourself, like the one in Stony Creek, Flamborough, do to support businesses if indeed it is dire tomorrow?
Yeah, we're trying to do everything we can. I went down to Washington in early March, met with senators and ambassadors and tried to get the message across about the importance of Hamilton's economy. So we're at the forefront. We're trying to make sure that our voices are heard, and Mayor Horvath was down there on a parallel mission at the same time. So Hamilton is being well represented both nationally and locally. We sit on councils with both the Ontario and the Canadian Chamber, and so are constantly making sure that Hamilton is heard. And then, we send out a newsletter to all our members today, giving them the latest updates and pointing them to resources to help support them and all the government programs that are currently in place. So we're trying to make sure that our members have all the tools and resources they can to mitigate the impacts of these tariffs.
That's the president and CEO of Hamilton's Chamber of Commerce, Greg Dunnett. Greg, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks, and have a good night.